Okay. So, actually making our pieces, building our scene. So we've done our research gathering. We know exactly what we're going to be making. We know all our different assets. We know the environment. We've answered all those questions. We've made our floor plan, and when we've kind of got some feedback on it, made sure it's not too big and too small. Because it has to fit our environment. So you're not going to make a cute Parisian cafe that's massive, but you're not going to make a club which is really small. So we've gauged the size of our places. Now it's time to actually make some stuff. Now stage one is blocking. Blocking is really simple. We don't need anything UV'd. We don't need anything detailed or anything like that. We're not going to be texturing any of these assets. We're literally just bringing these things together to get our floor plan in 3D, so we get a better idea about the scale, the size, how things work, and how things fit together. So what I've done first of all is gone and made a little toy box of the basic assets, starting with both my big wall and my big floor, my main wall. And starting off with my floor, all I've done is I've decided to make my floor basically one whole grid section in size. So this is a 24 by 24 Maya unit size flooring. Really, when I hold it up against Manny over here, who's 6 foot, it's about 5 foot. It comes up to the middle of his chest, so it's about 5 foot, which is okay. I'm thinking about this as like a 5 foot by 5 foot square piece. So that's my floor piece. And what I've done for my main wall piece is done the same thing. I've made it 24 units, or my whole grid section wide, so 5 foot. But then I've made it 40 units high, because when I used Manny to scale it, that felt quite nice as like a general wall piece. It's not too close to his head, not too far away. If I want to add extra height to it, I can do that with other pieces. But generally, that's like a basic wall type here. Now, when I create these, I use the grid to snap to. I use the grid to create my pieces, so I can snap stuff to it. There we go. So, for instance, if I'm just making a basic floor piece, I'm literally just going to make sure that interact decoration is turned on. So if this is turned off, it's going to be a pain in the ass for you. But all I've got to do is hold X. So X is snap to grid. You can see the little icon up there when I hold it down. X. So I'm going to hold X and just drag out to make a floor piece. And you can see there it's snapping to the grid because I'm holding X. So boom, that's my floor piece. And I basically just did the exact same thing for my wall piece. I started off with a floor piece, made it my grid width, and then decided to make it X amount of units high, which ended up being 40 units. And then my two basic pieces. So from here, I started making everything else. So first of all, I started off with like the walls and floors. So I've got my main wall. This is my full unit wall. And I'm probably going to need a half size wall. So what I did was literally grab this, duplicated it, cut it in half, making sure that it's actually 50%, not just eyeballed. So 50%, cut that in half, and then cut that in half. So I've got a full unit, half unit, and a quarter unit. So that's answering 3 of the wall questions that I might have. I did the same thing with my floor. So I've got my floor there, cut that in half vertically. So I've got like a vertical half floor. And then I cut that in half for a quarter floor. And then I took this, but then cut it in half horizontally for horizontal floor. Now I could use this and just rotate it around, but this I can actually have 2 different UV setups. One that's tall against the UV and one that's long against the UV. And then because I knew I was going to have some kind of high elevation stairs, I needed something to obviously sit against the sides of the stairs. So I did the same thing. I got my wall section and I just made this the height of my stairs. And I made a full unit, half unit, quarter unit. Dead simple. Oh yeah, now I also made these, which is again well, pretty much exactly the same as these. It's just these, but above the wall. So if I wanted to add a little bit more height to my wall, I could do that with these. It just means I don't have to make a wall piece which is like really tall, weirdly tall. If I didn't want to, if it didn't make sense. Okay. Now from there, I've made everything else. So from this to this to this to this. So set from 7 pieces, I've made everything else. So making my doors and my windows, for instance, really easy. All I did was basically just duplicate off a wall piece, brought Manny over to scale against it. So remembering that Manny is 6 foot, And what I did was literally make an edge. So I got my multi-cut tool. Oop, make sure I'm on the right object. Just added that edge in randomly at any point, and then holding X, I just moved it up and down, and then decided, okay, that's giving me enough of headroom from top of the door to manage, so that's okay. And then I did the same thing. So I put two edges there. I did the same thing for this. Now if you want to be very careful with this, what you can do is tap space and then go to your front view, which is bottom left, and then find my piece. There we go. And again, I'm holding X when I do this, and I'm just snapping, so this is in line with one of these grid lines. And I'm thinking this one, so this would be 4 units in for me. So like there, and I grab the same thing here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 units there. There we go. So that's my door piece. And then I did the exact same thing for my half door piece, but knowing that the door is probably going to be the same from my single door to a double door, half door piece, my double door piece, this piece here, knowing that my door here, which literally all I did was make a cube and just fitted it within this space, like holding V to snap to vertex inside there, so I made a bit of a door. So the door is going to be exactly the same for both my single and my double door. So what I did was think, okay, if I'm closing off one side here, whereas with this piece, if I isolate these two, with this piece, obviously I've got basically a wall either side of the door. But if I'm literally just moving this door to one side and taking away the end piece, what I'm doing is taking away the 4 units that are over here and putting it on this side. So now this is 8 units wide. If my door was 4 units wide here, this would become 8. Keeping the exact same size of this door, it's literally just shifting over to the left a little bit. So dead easy. I did the same thing with a window, so I thought, what kind of windows might I need? So I'm probably going to need something like this, you know, like waist-high windows. So I've made an end piece using the exact same thinking as what I did with the door pieces. I just have something at the bottom here for a wall. So I've got an end piece here, but then I've also got this piece, so this can go in the middle. So if I want to have like really long windows, I can have this be one end, and then this, however many I want in between, and then basically another one of these at the other end, just rotated or flipped around. And then I did the same thing for my tall windows, exact same jazz. And the other thing I thought I might need is some sort of pillar. Now this is a square pillar for now, and it's not necessarily the final scale, but I know that I want it to be, you know, noticeable. So again, I've made this just with a cube, just take away some faces that I don't need, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 units wide by 4 units deep. So if I wanted to double this up, because it's 4 units deep, if I duplicated it, rotated it, and aligned it like this, this then becomes a big square pillar. Cool. And with that, I've created everything of my entire scene. So how do I actually do it? Well, it's really, really easy. I'm just going to start off with my floor, duplicate it, and hold X and just drag it into place. So let me just drag it off to a starting point like that. If you're looking at your floor plan, you know, so what we said before, that this is about 5 feet wide and 5 feet long. So if you can break up your floor plan into that kind of blockage, you can see that, okay, my whole wall section is going to be 25 foot wide or something like that. So what I'm going to do is, you know, make a bunch of floors. So this is going to be 7 units wide. So if I bring a duplicate of Manny over, I can see the scale of that. Okay. So this is where my entrance is going to be about. So let's duplicate these. Holding X again, I'm just going to duplicate them. And I'm going to make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then I'm going to start off by making just a 7 by 7 grid. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm not working off a floor plan. I'm kind of eyeballing this, which obviously we shouldn't be doing, but when you're comfortable, you can eyeball stuff. But you should always work off plans anyway. Okay, so that's okay. So I've got a floor plan here, a big square, that's fine. And I can start to think about stuff. So, okay, I walk in, maybe my entrance is over here. Okay, so if I think my entrance is over here, why don't I grab my entrances? Am I going to have a double door or a single door? I think I'm going to go double door. So I'm going to just duplicate off a double door section, bring it over, and I'm going to bring this in, rotate this round. Okay, cool. Now one thing straight away that's making me think about stuff is the fact that how close this door is to the wall. Possibly. I've not added anything back here yet, but maybe this door is going to be a bit too close to the wall. So I feel like I want to move this door a little bit away. I don't want to use it. I don't want to move like a full wall unit because that's too much space. I could move it half a wall unit, or I could maybe move it a quarter wall unit. So let's do a quarter wall. So I'm going to duplicate over a quarter wall, bring it in, and then just hold X to snap that in. And then just get these snapping into place. Like that. Okay. That just gives me a little bit more space for the door. Okay, cool. So to coming in over here, I'm feeling like, so this is, I'm going to do a cafe. But like a sit down cafe place, like a coffee shop kind of thing. So let's say the cafe bar's over here. So what I'm going to do is grab these and go away, and just maybe bring that in there. But then I'm thinking, okay, if the cafe bar's there and it's going to be blocked off, how do the employees get behind there? So maybe there's this little staff entrance here, like right there. So in fact, yeah, I'm going to bring in a single door. Rotate into place and move that to the middle. So hold X, drag that till it's in the middle, like that. Is that in the middle? Yeah, it's in the middle. So that's where the staff get into this area here. So this is all blocked off to the public. Looking at enough space back here for people to move around. But I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not seeing I'm just got a floor plan right here. But what I'm thinking straight away is, well, there's going to be something there. There's going to be a countertop there. Is the countertop going to be 5 feet deep or something? Probably not. It's not a great. That's too big. So what I can do is maybe use one of my half floor pieces just to get a sense of that size in at the beginning. So I'm just literally using this as a spacer. That, and then I can move these back in. Like that, okay. And then if I bring money over, I can make a decision. Okay, so let's get money, let's get another one there. Now we talked about this in class, you know, think about the size of stuff, you know. Is this too short? Is this too much of a distance? Is this not enough distance between money and the other money? You know, if you think about in cafes or bars, you might have like sinks in here. You know, bars are normally, you know, quite deep. So actually maybe this isn't long enough, or this isn't deep enough, but this, a full 5 foot is too deep. So now I need to find like an in-between. Well, now this is where we can start making some extra pieces, because I can't answer all my questions here at the very beginning. But while I'm building, I might start to ask myself more questions like, oh, okay, one piece is too thin, one piece is too thick, so what if I make an in-between? Okay, so what if I actually make that? I'm going to basically get a full piece here, and there you go. And I'm just going to cut it into quarters. So using the multi-cut, not the multi-cut, connect tool there. So I'm going to make 4 divisions. And then I'm just going to delete this piece, and then get rid of the 2 pieces I don't need, like that. I just want to keep it nice and simple, no extra edges, and then just DV that into the bottom corner of it again. Slide that back in. There we go. Delete that. Oh. This object's being very weird, so I'm just gonna. Oh, that's being very weird. So let's try that again. So yeah, just using the connect tool to add 4 divisions, and then delete one, and then I'm just going to delete those edges in the middle, like that. DV that into the corner, and then I can do. Yeah, don't know why that one just turned black and started acting weird. But now, that feels about right. So that's 3 foot deep, I believe. Question mark? Or something like that. But now that feels a lot better for Manny and Manny to be kind of communicating over. It's like a coffee shop. So I'm just going to delete the others and then fill the space in with these pieces. Like that. And then I'm also going to duplicate this and put it with the rest of the family. Because now this is a new piece that I might use in other places. This is basically my 3/3 of a full unit kind of thing. Then I can just move these back in. Like that. Okay. So now I've got a bit of an indication, and I've just got to remember it's there. I got a bit of an indication of the depth of that little place. I'm thinking this is looking very square as well. What if I want to mess up the geometry a little bit? Well, I'm thinking maybe instead of this being a right angle here, maybe this is a diagonal angle, so it's just basically like a triangle in the corner here. Super easy. I'm just going to get this, delete this edge, or delete this vertex, turn it into a triangle, and then I can think that, okay, yeah, it's not quite as rectangular or angular now, so I can just duplicate that again, move it up with the rest of the family, move it over. So every time I add a new thing or make a new thing, I'm just basically adding it back to the family. So if I need to go back and use it again, I can do. Cool. So I've got something like this going on at the minute. Thinking maybe I'm going to have some boofs over here, but not very deep ones. So maybe 2 boofs there. Or maybe not. Maybe 1 boof, then a half wall piece, and then that, and then if I do a half wall piece, then maybe a corner piece, like that. So boom, take them out. Okay, yeah, okay. So now I'm just changing up some of the geometry a little bit. We're getting away from that cube kind of environment now. Now we're getting a bit more of an interesting environment. And then I'm going to add. Oops. Like that. I'm going to make a wee little corridor. That would take you to the toilets. Okay. So maybe I might keep the floor plan like that. So it's not too big. It's getting a little bit big for a coffee shop, but I'm thinking maybe this is like Starbucks Nero kind of thing where it's bigger, it's a chain. Okay, so now I can start bringing in my walls, and it's the exact same thing now. It's just coming in, grabbing what I need, and filling in the space, and then I might have areas like this. So this diagonal one I've just made, if I rotate my standard wall piece in there, it's too short. What I can do is make a piece that would fit inside one of these diagonal pieces, and then that's a new piece for my set. So I can just take that over with the family. Make sure it's in the right position, yep, and then put it over there. And here where I've got like the little 2/3 piece I've made, all I've got to do is make that. So again, that's my 2/3 wall piece to go along with my 2/3 flooring. So kind of put that over, let's put it over here. Maybe I need to have a bit of height because maybe this is a little bit too, the ceiling's maybe a little bit too close to the people. So maybe I can bring this in, start bringing in some wall pieces. Yay, okay. But I am thinking maybe a window here would be quite nice. So in fact, I'm going to get rid of these because you're going to want to be able to see inside the coffee place. So I'm going to grab the relevant pieces. Okay, so now because we added that little piece there, this might end up having another little special piece made for it as well, because we're coming up short on the wall a little bit. Like that. I'll grab a centerpiece, bring that over. Oh, I've grabbed the wrong window. Silly me. Is that the right one? Yes, right one. So you can see here that because we used that quarter wall piece here, we're coming up a little bit short. So let me make adjustments to this. And I'm just going to copy this with the rest of the family. Like I said at the beginning, none of this is UV'd. So I'm not carrying, do not worry about cutting stuff up and moving UVs around or moving edges around. It's all super easy to do. Now, I'm thinking if these are booths, maybe we step up a little bit into that booth. So, obviously I don't want to be stepping up this high, but what I can do is use this and think, right, if this is half a wall piece, or half a floor piece, then is that going to be enough? So I'm going to just bring Manny over again to scale. So that's quite a step up for a person to make. So maybe I might make a really small piece like this. A very, very special piece that I would literally just use in this because I got a little bit of a step up. I can raise them up. For these little boofy sections. Here we go. Now I really don't care that I've made these little raises here in relation to the walls because that doesn't really matter. If I grab a wall section for instance, bring it over, get there, rotate around. That's cool, you know, this does not matter. So this is not the right wall piece, so this needs to be a half wall piece. Grab half wall. So as we talked about in class as well, I have named all my base objects. So this is SM wall full. SM stands for static mesh. You don't have to do this. I do advise naming stuff. Absolutely advise naming stuff. But I don't advise, well, you don't have to do it the same way I've done it. Because SM is static mesh underscore wall, so it's what it is. This is me retraining myself to get that into my head, because I don't really do that. I do work a bit sloppy generally. But it's good to just at least call it, you know, wall full, you know, wall half, wall quarter. Because then when you're dealing with when you're filling your scene, especially when we're actually filling the final scene, the refined pieces or all the different assets, this can be very, very. If you've got just a lot of like poly surface 5s going wrong, like everything's named like P disk 1 to P disk 100 and P cylinder 1 to P cylinder 100, you don't know what's what. But at least if you know at the top, you can type in, right, I just want to know where all my static mesh wall sections are. Then boom, you can search for all your wall sections. Or maybe I just want to know where all my full sections are. There you go. So all my full sections, and I can grab them and I can actually see where they are. Just makes things nice and controllable. So as you've seen in my class, in class as well, I'm doing that kind of brew bar for the one I'm doing in class. It is big. It's getting to the point where it's a bit too big, so I'm not going to make it any bigger. But it does still kind of fit my general theme. It's minimalist, it's hipster, it's stripped back. There's not going to be a lot of stuff in there, but the things that are going to be in there are going to be quite eye-catching. If you're doing something where you're doing a lot of clutter and you're having a lot of stuff on the walls and stuff, bring it down, tone it down a little bit. Make it smaller, because if you make a big environment where you got to fill it with a lot of stuff, you're going to be doing a lot of repeating of stuff, and it's going to look really naff, and it's going to look very obvious that stuff is repeated. Same for anything that's meant to be cute and intimate. You don't want to have a big, cute, intimate environment, because that doesn't make sense. It's too big. So if you're doing a cute little French cafe, make it a small little cute French cafe. But then always think about, if this is in a game, what would be the general environment for this? What would be the feel for it? Who's going to be using it? What's the game type? If this is a walking simulator, JRPG kind of thing, you don't sprint anywhere, you walk everywhere. How big is the environment? Is it going to take you ages to move around to get from one space to another? Or if this is like a cover shooter kind of style game, does it look like it's big enough to have some really decent meaty combat in there? Or does it look a little bit too small? Are you going to be, if it's too tight, then it's just going to be like a melee fest and it's going to be boring. So yeah, think about the game that you are making with this. Or for this. Because yeah, I keep saying as well, we're not just making pretty pictures for ourselves. This is something that's meant to be thought about as a commercial entity, as a piece of commercial art. So it's got to sell. Does your environment look like it's going to sell? Okay, so just getting bits in. So as you can see, I'm kind of building the scene. It's not taking me long at all. So this whole building process might take like an hour, just in this kind of stage. One thing you can also do is using websites like thedimensions.com, which is on the VLE, going to IKEA, going to home-based websites and looking at objects that relate to your scenes. Get the dimensions from those, and remember that if this is 5 foot and you're doing a 5 foot table, 5 foot wide table, then it would fit inside the square. But then always relate stuff to the object that to one of the main kind of pieces. So if this is 5 foot by 5 foot, then if you're doing a 6 foot wide, 2.5 foot deep table, use this to scale it to. And all you got to do at the beginning is literally just make a cube. These can be your pieces at first. So let's start by making a cube. So yeah, if I'm making like a 6 foot wide, 6 foot long by 5 foot wide table, well, so that's 5 foot, and let's add another foot onto it. So about that. There we go. And then it's 2 foot and 2.5 foot wide. So and maybe about there. Okay. And then I've got to get the scale in there as well. So how tall is this going to be? So I can actually use Mani for this. So is this going to be a seated, like a low seating table, or is this going to be a table with stools? I reckon, looking at this might be a In fact, if we make this a bit deeper, so I'm going to make this roughly about 3 foot. Now notice as well, I'm not being too precious with the scales on this too much. I'm really paying attention to how big things are, but I'm not using the grid so much because I'm only using the grid sections on things that need to be jigsawed together. Tables and chairs, stools, all this kind of jazz, they move around. You know, you could pick up a chair and move it. So it doesn't matter if it's not snapping to the grid and doesn't jigsaw together because it's just a chair. So yeah, if I want to make this about 3 foot deep and then about sternum height, so this is more like a stool kind of place. Okay, so that's my table. That's a analog, a set piece for my table. So I'm going to move one over here. Maybe I'll make a little cluster of props here. Then I can move this in, bring it in, and be like, okay, let's rotate, let's put this into place, let's actually dress the set a little bit. Can a player come through and walk comfortably through this environment? What's the pathing like? You know, is there enough space from the counter to the next table so people can actually get in here? Or are you bringing your table too close to the counter? You know, so... Because I know I've got to also think about stools and stuff. Is there not going to be enough space for stools and then for people to walk through? So, yeah, let's have a bit of a... like that. And then, if I use this as an example, I can make some very, very basic... I can even use a cube, actually. I don't know if I'm using a cylinder. I can use a cube to represent my stool. So let's get a rough height in there. Again, I can use, let's bring over a mani. So duplicate a mani over. And a stool's probably going to be about, yeah, big. You know, being able to get your feet under, maybe something like that. And then is it going to be big enough to sit on? Let's go a rough, again, about that. Maybe 1.5 feet or maybe a foot wide by foot. Okay, that's my stool. So duplicate one of those over and then start bringing that in. So at this stage you can also do this very basic blocking. I'm not doing any kind of refinement at all. This is all just finding the space. Okay. And as I kind of go through, I might end up changing some stuff. I might take some stuff away. I might end up making it a bit bigger, a bit smaller. With, you know, with the feedback that someone might give me, say, why is this that this doesn't make sense with this being here, or if you move this area here, it might make it a bit smaller, might make it feel a bit better as a playable environment. But with this, you know, I'm just doing very basic blockings using my toy box that might, you know, expand as I come up against more kind of things I need to solve. But eventually all this will be replaced by something else anyway, so it can't be really precious at all. So in fact what I might do is just lift these up to the height in which I think they should be. So I'm using X to do this now. So I'm thinking maybe there. Maybe there, yeah. So that feels enough. That feels like enough space to have. You know, you put your drink down there, pick it up. There's enough space where you're gonna have, you know, crap on the counter. Maybe there's, ooh, maybe one piece has got one of those little. Oh, cut out sections. So if I just do something a wee bit like this. You know, maybe they've got one of them kind of guys going on where the till is like cut into the counter a little bit. Cool. That feels, yeah, feels nice. And then there's enough space back here for me to do like a back counter with shelves. There's enough space back here to have people move back and forth. So, you know, if another mani was in here, you know, be able to like move around. This is quite a long a long bar top for a cafe, I do think. But anyway, so yeah, this is all I'm going to do at the beginning. Now things like toilets and kitchens and that kind of stuff, you can add them in. You can actually build them if you want to, but I would only really build them if you're doing a small environment. If you're doing a big environment, or well, if you're doing an environment where you've actually no flipping against that. You might be able to do it if you're doing an environment where you're using a lot of minimalist stuff, because then you've got more time to make it. But if you're doing an environment where you're going to be making a lot of props, maybe you're not going to have enough time. So what I would suggest is suggesting toilets, suggesting kitchens, suggesting stuff. You know, what is it? See, don't tell, or show, don't tell. Because it shows that you're thinking about stuff in it. Cool. So yeah, that's all I need us to do for this stage, and this is what I want to have done for Friday. Is, you know, basic block out like this, using nice basic pieces, scale to the grid. I used the whole grid for mine, but you might want to use one of the grid quadrants, or maybe you only feel that it needs to be 18 by 18. Always use squares, I will say that. Always use a square thing, don't use rectangles for your main pieces of the flooring. But you can use rectangles for when you do your half pieces, your 2/3 pieces, that kind of stuff. But I did this as mine. Also, don't scale Manny. Manny's perfect as he is. I intentionally scaled him to this size so that we could be, because it fits in the scene. We don't have to worry about making it too big, too small. Fit everything to Manny. But one thing that might happen later on as well, because of how things, you know, like tiling textures work, we're laying all this out like this, but we might eventually end up making like one big piece of geometry for this section. Instead of 6, we might end up making one big piece, but then just change the tiling so it looks like it tiles. It looks like it's many different pieces. This is cool stuff we're going to look at later on. Cool. In fact, I'm just going to change one last thing. Again, this is the cool thing about doing this kind of building, is you can make quick changes like that. So I'm thinking, this looks a little bit too even, having both right angles aligned to each other. So what I'm going to do is just knock one back a little bit. So this has got a little bit more open space. Maybe there's a fridge here. I don't know. But yeah, do a save. So that's what I want us to do first of all. Really basic, blocking in, using your floor plans. You know, you got that floor plan creator on the VLE, on the Discord, that you can use. Sketching it on paper, whatever you want to do, but really boils down to creating something like this, and then just making sure about scale. This is getting big. This is getting on the bigger size, and mine that I'm building in class is quite big. I don't want anyone to go as big as mine because it's too big. But yeah, just use money. Just really think about the size of the environment, who's going to be using it, all that kind of jazz that we were speaking about in class. So that easy. So on Friday we should have this finished, and we should be able to rock and roll with all the next stages. See you then.